My babysitter from childhood, a guy named Austin Koth, he was killed in Iraq in 2006, about 10 days before he was supposed to come home. And he wasn't poor. He wasn't in need of going into the military for some reason or another. He just went. It was just a thing. And then you find all his uncles were in the Navy, and then he joined the Navy, you know? And his dad was an alcoholic. And, you know, all these different things in life filtered in there. And when we're talking about militarism and we're talking about war, and we're just talking about oil, we're missing a huge factor, you know? And there's a lot of factors, but a huge factor is masculinity. What masculinity is, how it's pumped into people, how all these men are taught all these things about what it is to be a man and all this shit, and women too, right? And we just this is our entire lives. We grow up with this shit, and like we're never gonna stop war if we don't redefine masculinity, if we don't refigure out how to raise men and women, but especially men, to deal with conflict in different ways, you know, and to deal with the hardships that they go through and the trauma they go through as kids, and find other outlets for it, you know, besides wanting to go kill people, you know, and that's really important. And I think about this as I do some writing and research and stuff, a little bit of a historian, and I think it'd be really interesting if somebody wrote a history of any war from this perspective, instead of saying, you know, the left says, oh, the Iraq War, it was all about oil. Yeah, okay, cool. And the right wing is like, no, it's about freedom and all this stuff. America, freedom, weapons of mass destruction, all this horse shit, right? But no, but there's a more important factor. Why were soldiers there? Why did people have uniforms on? Why did they have weapons in their hand? What made them do that? Any old excuse, whatever, you send the military to war, it doesn't matter. If some dude is standing on the corner trying to get you to invade the Czech Republic because they have coal, you'd be like, that dude's crazy. You know what I mean? But George Bush is like, oh, I want oil, I want some oil, I'm going to send all it. But then there's 1.5 million people willing to go do it. That's the issue, right? And that's a much more complicated issue. No, there's no U.S. soldier that went to go fight for oil. You know? What are you doing for, why did you join the military? Like, well, I really wanted to help oil companies get access to cheap oil reserves. You know, Iraq has a lot of them, you know, I'm hoping that we go into Venezuela next. No, I've never heard that. But you got people like, what did you join the military? It's like, I don't know, man. I fucked up. I would like somebody to write a history of a war based on the stories of the actual people that fought it and how they ended up there. That would be a big thing. So, part of my exploration into the psyche of these things is this song, which is also a rewritten Woody Guthrie song. It's called Talkin' Mean Machine. And to hear this song properly, you have to close your eyes for a second. I'm not going to do anything to you. No one is. Close your eyes and imagine the voice of George W. Bush. Remember that?
Oh, great.
Cool. Oh, and Tony Blair, too. Imagine George Bush taking Tony Blair on a walk to go pee, you know, on his leash. He takes him outside so Tony Blair can go to the bathroom. He brings him back inside, and they continue to plan together. It's funny, we all assume that Tony Blair must have been part of the right conservative party. You know, I only recently found out that apparently he was supposed to be part of your quote cool party. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, no shit, that's awful.
British people are confused as well.
Right. Yeah. Very good point. Somebody said it is a right party. But like our left party, the Democrats, are a right-wing party by global standards. It's amazing. And then people in the US are like, Obama's a communist. And I'm like, no, if Obama was a communist, I would be shooting you. You know, because I want health care. I wouldn't really be shooting that. But anyway. I'm going to embody the voice of George W. Bush and some of his characteristics. And it's not because Obama's doing something different. It's just because George Bush's voice summed it up a lot better. The man just simply had to talk, and you were like, oh, I get it. Shit's going to be real bad. Cool, all right. You know? It's like some people just sound like assholes, you know? It's like how there's those cops that just look racist. you know? Anyway. It's true. Am I wrong? No. And George Bush is not from Texas. This is the thing. I love Texas. I'll defend Texas, you know? George Bush is from a wealthy family in Connecticut, and they don't talk like George Bush talks in Connecticut. I think that George Bush's accent was manufactured by his curators, by his makeup artists and his stage manager and all the different people that create him in the public light. And they were like, yeah, say dumb shit. Poor white people will love it. They'll be like, oh, look, he's one of us. He doesn't know how to...
Tony Blair had to take her lessons in not sounding so posh as well, because he came from a pretty rich family as
Nice.
well.
Okay, well, there you go. Maybe they went together. But and I see it work. I see it work on people in my family and people close to me. They're like, oh yeah, he's just a regular dude. Yeah, most regular working class white Americans have a father that was head of the CIA and the president, and their grandfather was a Nazi banker. That's a pretty traditional American story, you know. Most working people can relate to that. Oh yeah, I mean my grandfather was a very wealthy Nazi banker as well. Yes, he was also part of the American Fascist Party with Henry Ford and all these people. Yeah. Normal. Very normal. It is okay to laugh at this song. It actually makes it less awkward. Well, I'm the meanest man. I got a 5-sided brain. Most folks around me think I'm insane, but it doesn't faze me. Not a bit. You say I'm crazy? I don't give a shit. I'm mean. By the way, I wrote this with my friend Mark Henry. Gotta give him credit. He wrote all the funny parts. I wrote the serious parts. He's smart, too. He's a smart political songwriter. But he's funny, and I'm not. He's just... Anyway. I was like, how can we make this song more fucked up and serious? Where was I? Oh, yeah. Wait, no. I didn't even think of it. It was like looking at the paper earlier. I just did the same thing again. Oh, yeah, okay, all right. Mean. Well, I'm mean to my mother, I'm mean to my brother, mean to anyone I think of as an other. And if you don't want to play nice with me, I'll bring democracy to your stupid country. I'm mean. You might think I'll be a little bit nicer when I get older. 240. At some point, you just get meaner. Well, I'm mean in the East, I'm mean in the West. Free market meanness is what I like best. I go around putting lots of folks in debt, and then I completely destroy their lives with interest. The econ people call those structural adjustment programs. Neoliberal reform, austerity measures, budget cuts. I don't like synonyms. I just call it mean. Well, I go around overthrowing governments, in the bad way, of course, not in the good way, with the army or economics for fruit and gold and gasoline. I've funded many a mean machine, folks like Suharto, Augusto Pinochet, Manuel Noriega, Nodin Diem, Saddam Hussein, Marcos Gautier, the Contra, the Shah, Ram Musharraf, Duvalier, Mubarak, Maliki, Ben Ali, Karzai, and many others. And there are many others. Like Osama. Well, I profit from wars, I profit from jails, I profit from disease, I profit from sales, I profit from things you think would sadden me. Even found a way to profit off of tragedies, things like tsunamis, earthquakes, hurricanes, refugee crises, anthrax attacks, bird flu, pit bulls, American Idol, Miley Cyrus, all sorts of things. And Osama. I got a lot of other folks that roll with me, like the Saudis and South Korea, Israel, Australia, and Pakistan, and my 51st state, England, and sometimes Haiti, too. You know. Depending, of course, on how recently I've kidnapped their president, which I did in 2004, you might remember. You might remember it. Oh, but Hugo Chavez didn't roll with me. He didn't like my type of hegemony. He called me a donkey on live TV. He did. He's got a good point, though, because I'm an asshole. And I said, listen here, Mr. Communist. I dare you to come to the next UN conference because I'll blow up your helicopter or poison your cigar. And Chavez was like, I don't smoke cigars. And I said, I don't give a shit. I don't like the UN anyway. It's a bunch of communists in there. I mean, the French. You know about the French? And that communist statue they built in the New York Harbor. Communist. You know, when the Tea Party first started, they were on TV, all these white, apparently straight men calling themselves teabaggers. That's how it started. It was years of teabagging before one of their sons was like, hey, Dad. And I talked to him for a second, and he was like, no, I'm busy. And he's like, I really got to tell you something. And he was like, no, I'm busy. Go back to your room. Classic fashion, you know? And so his son was like, okay, I just want to let you know that teabagging is like where you put your scrotum on someone's face. And then he went back in his room, slammed the door, put on some punk, made some homemade patches, tried to be less pissed off. And so his father went to like the teabagger party meeting thing the next week. He was like, hey, my son told me something, and they all laughed, and they were like, your son? You don't listen to your son. And he's like, I know, but he said something and I heard it. And it's kind of important. And so they changed their name. But they got on TV and they broke all these French wine bottles at the beginning of the Iraq War. And they were like, the French don't want to liberate Iraq with us. They're traitors, cowards. They've always been cowards. Overlooking the basic fact that the French Navy helped us win our revolution against Britain. And which is not really that important in the modern era, unless, of course, you're naming yourself after a situation from the 1700s, like the Boston Tea Party. It becomes kind of important to know these like basic facts of the historical time period. And they're wearing these little paper hats and shit, trying to look like the 1700s. Anyway. But they probably had really cool sex parties, you know? Anyways. Well, yeah, some folks don't like what I do. I say they're all Islamo-fascists too, and folks question me. It really gets me going. You see, I'm just trying to keep this oil flowing, get rid of trade barriers. You know, things that impede the free flow of capital, like child labor laws, the Civil Rights Act, and unions. I just want to hurt people, hurt animals, keep generic AIDS medication out of the hands of poor people, establish sweatshops across the global south, and other such things. You know, spread freedom. Oh yeah, and I'm pro-life.
Hey.